Next up, Information Services, Dale Burtch and Ryan Sadler.
Well, I don't have any fancy presentation. Part of that is I'm going to just talk about a couple of different things. One is the overall GIS structure within the county, which is probably very confusing to anyone from the outside. It sure confuses those of us from the inside sometimes. And then just a little bit about our role, and then Ryan's going to talk a little bit about our SDE environment and how we've set it up to accommodate our structure. Now, Salt Lake County has a decentralized GIS that should be obvious. Each one of the offices has its own responsibilities, its own data set. There's a lot of cooperation, and historically, that wasn't always the case. Now, for those of you who sometimes contact the county, that may create some frustration at times, because you call somebody and say, well, I need the center line, and you have to call the recorder's office or the health department, and they say, well, I can't really do that for you. So you may feel like you're getting the shuffle, but it is because we have separate organizations that have those responsibilities. The Information Services is an internal service organization. While we may end up ultimately giving you some data, we can only do that with the permission of the data owner. So what our role within the county is, we provide some of the infrastructure, we maintain the ARC server environment, we maintain some concurrent licensing for the ArcView, ArcInfo products, and then we provide analysis, mapping, and even application development services for those parts of the county that don't have those resources, because Salt Lake County is a very large organization. There are a number of our organizations that simply don't have the capability to make use of the GIS tools. So Information Services, again, we're more of an internal service organization than we are external, but certainly if you call any of us in Information Services, we can at least tell you who owns the data and who you need to talk to. And Ryan was just going to talk real briefly. Because of our needs, we had to come up with a slightly different structure. We don't have a single unified data environment for editing purposes. For publication, we do. We manage something that's available to all of the county offices internally. So Ryan, if you want to just explain SDE, how we structure it.
Sure. With the different offices having different levels of expertise with GIS, we at IS we can support an office with everything, or we just kind of provide the backbone and people take it from there, like in the assessors and other offices. So with our SDE, we have different levels of access to the data. We have a super user, and then what's called an SDE editor, and then an SDE viewer. And those are controlled with the underlying Active Directory groups with our network. And so if you're going to be a creator of the data in an organization, they'll be set up as a super user. And then if you're not going to create the data, but you need to edit it, obviously you'd be part of the editor group. So that's kind of how we structured it. So when you do your versioning, the way we have it is you check out from the default version and make a working copy, and then post your edits back to the default version. And if you're satisfied with what you have and you want to share that out in the published geodatabase, that is done through a Python scripts that we have that will go ahead and update that common source SDE geodatabase that we have. Another aspect of the SDE is using it for ArcGIS Server and ArcIMS. One of the biggest, it's a plus, but it's also a challenge, is the data locks that you get with SDE, the schema locks. And so right now we're moving forward, trying to get it to where instead of having our ArcGIS servers hit the SDE directly, they'll be hitting a file geodatabase replica of our data. So that kind of separates it out to ensure security, and also it helps it so it's better performance, and so those that are working on the data aren't being tied up by that access. That's another thing we're doing. So a little bit about our SDE. I'm sure there's going to be improvements, but right now that's how it is. So thanks for your time.